This is Lisa Murkowski, Chairman of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, with Murkowski's Message podcast.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the 16th episode of Murkowski's Message. It's Monday, the 14th of December. I'm Lisa Murkowski. I really do appreciate you joining me. Alaska is the largest state in the country, much larger than Texas. Our public university has a land grant, however, that is smaller than almost any other in the country. And this is the result of a complicated history of federal laws and an adverse court ruling that prevented the state of Alaska from directly transferring lands to the University of Alaska. And correcting this has been something that we've been working on for a long time, but it's been a long time coming. And that's why those of us in the Alaska Congressional Delegation have introduced the University of Alaska Fiscal Foundation Act. Our bill is Senate Bill 4696, and it would effectively transfer up to 360,000 acres from the federal estate to the University of Alaska. Any transferred lands would count against Alaska's statehood entitlement, so there would be no loss to the federal government. Congressman Young has introduced the companion bill in the House of Representatives. Our legislation has the support of Governor Dunleavy, members of the Alaska State Legislature, and the National Association of Land-Grant Universities. As a result of my role as chairman of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, we were able to hold a subcommittee hearing that included this bill in mid-November. I think we recognize that Alaska has a tremendous need for long-term support and stability for our university system. Budget cuts are dramatically reshaping the institution, so we need sustainable, long-term solutions. So joining me to explain exactly why this legislation is so needed is Pat Pitney. Pat is the Interim President of the University of Alaska. She previously served as the Budget Director for the Alaska State Legislature, and prior to that as Director of the Office of Management and Budget during the Walker-Mallott administration. She's got a long history with our university and was working as the University of Alaska Fairbanks Vice Chancellor when Governor Walker tapped her to work on the state's budget back in 2014. This was when the price of oil was about $25 a barrel. One fun fact about Pat is she is a former Olympic athlete. In fact, she was the first woman to win a gold medal in air rifle. So it's pretty clear she's not intimidated by big challenges. But Pat, thank you for joining me. You have your own family history with the University of Alaska. I'm just delighted that you are with us today to talk about some of these issues and to also be able to publicly thank you for stepping into this very, very, very important role.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all the support that you provide for our state and the university. It's wonderful to work with you, and the university has been my home since I moved to Alaska in 1987, starting out with getting my master's, and since then I have three kids who have all graduated from the university, and always keep close tabs on the UAF rifle team.
That's good.
Always high on the national radar.
Well,
so
but when you think about that connection, your personal connection to the university, it's important. It's clearly keeping you connected and coming back to our university system.
Absolutely. I think the university is just absolutely fundamental to our state, to our future. Our programs are completely linked with our industry, from engineering to healthcare to fisheries and ocean sciences, and then our research. It's cutting edge, and in the whole world of Arctic, they're fully invested. And so the importance of this institution and the challenge this institution is facing right now, it's the time to come back and help be part of the solution.
And that is really important, that you are recognizing that you have a great deal to offer, not only your budget experience, your legislative experience, just your commitment to the university as a whole, but really talking about how we can make our university more sustainable. So let's talk about the land grant issue. Kind of walk our listeners through the history. So what do you think it really means to be a land grant university? And then I mentioned that Alaska has one of the smallest land grants. How did we get to this place where big state, one of the smallest land grants?
I think that the history is long and complicated, but when the land grant process was in its infancy, Alaska was not a state. And as the Statehood Act developed, the land promises that existed for others through the Morrill Act and other popular land grants of the late 1800s and early 1900s, the provisions for Alaska didn't get put in stone. And as the Statehood Act came around, in some ways the university was put aside because the land issues were so critical. Then, of course, the state had the land for the university and did not have it in trust. So there was the complication that the university needed to secure that land back from the state for the university's behalf. A similar thing happened on the Mental Health Trust. So there were a lot of issues, and there was never that clean, you receive 360,000 acres. It was, you were in this bill, but this bill overrides it. And so that the complication of many iterations of bills, including, ANILCA and ANCSA, really left Alaska in a tenuous situation. The fortunate thing is so many lawmakers and many governors absolutely see the value in having the land grant as one leg of a three-legged stool for financial stability. And the state legislature actually at one point passed a bill. Mm-hmm. And this was in the late 90s. Thank you. I think you were in that legislature.
Right towards the end there, yes.
Exactly. But due to the court case I think you mentioned, a Supreme Court case that got overturned as not a viable option. But what it means to have the land is to have a way for the university to help itself. Through the development of that land, all of that funding goes into an endowment, and then that endowment, off of the earnings, provides stable funding going forward. Currently, we're offering a 4-year scholarship to the UA Scholars. The top 10% from each high school class has the opportunity for this Scholars Award. We could strengthen that award. We also do a lot in Arctic research in terms of grant funding and startup proposals for key Arctic research. In the past, there's been a big focus on agriculture and wildlife, just ever-present important issues in Alaska. So the funding, if we were to be able to secure this land grant, it would triple our current land grant. And it does take time, once you receive the land, to monetize the land, but because of the endowment model, that funding comes in perpetuity. And I think that everlasting, stable funding stream just allows us to have stability. And those tipping points where we can move a program from it's a good program to it's the best in the nation, these are the promise of the land grant. It's been a priority for every university administration since, the first one I was reading was 1938. So this is not a new topic, but this opportunity with this land grant bill that you've introduced is just, it's the brightest point we've had in 30 years. So appreciated.
Well, you've kind of walked us through what it would mean for the university if we had more stable funding, more stable resources going forward, everything from the Scholars Program to what can be done to enhance our already strong programs. As you know, we've had an opportunity to talk about the role that the University of Alaska plays in just focusing on the Arctic. Why would we not, as a state, the only Arctic state in this country, why would we not want to have good, robust Arctic program? In other words, be known as the Arctic University. I just think about what it would mean if the university was able to really focus on building things out rather than from year to year just fighting over the budget issues in front of you. Stability also brings certainty to students with the programs that they're looking at. Stability also attracts great professors and researchers to the university. So when you think about the benefits, it's so apparent, though. So we've introduced the legislation. As I mentioned in the introduction here, you're no stranger to the legislative process in Alaska. Collaboration is absolutely critical to passing legislation, and it's particularly going to be so with this. We've seen some good, strong support back home. I know the university's put a lot of effort into building consensus and really laying the groundwork here. But this is something that the university and the state are going to have to work together to fulfill this act. I mentioned that acres would be transferred from the federal estate to the university, but these transferred lands would count against our statehood entitlement. So I guess the last question for you here before we wrap is how do you see the university and the state working together to help fulfill this act?
A lot of that groundwork, fortunately, has been laid, and we're continuing to strengthen it. First and foremost, I think that many of the previous governors have been supportive. This governor is supportive in writing, in promoting this piece of legislation, and is on record to do so. Working with Department of Natural Resources to go through the selections we've already put forward. We're working through that process. The door is open with the commissioner and her staff. Both the House and Senate leadership have provided letters of support in the process. Part of the process is that this is good for all of Alaska. A strong university is good for Alaska, and there is upwards of about 5 million acres that the state has yet to be conveyed from the federal government, and so we're not taking away from land that the state currently has in their portfolio. And so I think that's also good. Mm-hmm. It does come from the state's whole, but it's not land that they've had access to at this point. And so I think that provides some comfort. This is additional, conveying the remaining federal lands is additional lands both for the state and the university. The groundwork that has been laid and then continuing to strengthen that groundwork is really important. An additional 360,000 acres puts so much more opportunity in the university's portfolio.
Well,
you
and
can almost see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about here is opportunity. Opportunity for the university, opportunity for the state. This is one of those initiatives that you point out. It's got a complicated history in terms of how we got here. But as you have recognized, this has been something that governor after governor has come forward and said, completing this, assuring that Alaska's land grant status is recognized, is going to be important for not only the university, but for the state going forward. We know we've got some work to do to get this passed, but what has been laid in terms of the groundwork, as you mentioned, from Governor Dunleavy, from you as the head of the university there, working with us to advance the legislation, this is something that we want to try to get fulfilled. I just appreciate your leadership and what you're doing within our great university system and working to, again, provide stability so that we can truly see that greatness. So, Pat, I want to thank you for being with me today to discuss the University of Alaska Fiscal Foundation Act. Greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and let me know anything I can do to help.
Well, we'll be working on it together. So for those of you who have listened, thank you for listening. Be safe, be healthy, and take care. Bye-bye.